Hello everyone, Alexa Donne here, and today we're going to have a little fun discussion. I didn't even outline this one about the big question, the latest bugaboo in traditional publishing, which is the midlist disappearing? Publishers Weekly published an article a few weeks ago about this, and of course everyone got all aflutter on Twitter, to which I shrugged. I shrug emoji'd. I was like, guys, well, I've been talking about this for a while. This kind of talks about the midlist, which I made a video on that, and about how publishing is investing most of its resources in the biggest titles, and it's the biggest titles, like the best-selling authors that you already know and love, all the A-listers. Their sales are increasing and everyone else's sales are either stagnant or falling. And I'm like, guys, we already knew this. This has been a thing for a while. The midlist has both been disappearing for a very long time. Like, you can literally Google Publishers Weekly and midlist if you're looking for this article. I'm gonna put the link down below. But when I did just that, I saw articles from 10 years ago, 15 years ago, decrying the same thing. It's both true and not true at the same time, and I want to talk a bit about what the article talked about, and also side-eye a few of the anonymous quotes. Fascinating. Everyone quoted in the article except for one person that wanted to be anonymous talking about this, and I'm like, who are some of these people? Because some of their thoughts are a little whack. And just a brief definition, even though I have a whole video on it, the midlist is all of the books that sit in the middle of a list. A publisher's list has a natural tiers: top, middle, and bottom. Bottom, these are the books that really don't sell and are considered commercial failures, and then the top are all the big bestsellers. Like, they're selling tens and tens and tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of copies, and they're making everyone nice bank, and then everything else falls in the middle. And traditionally, for a very, very long time, and still, mid-list authors support publishers and support publishing, meaning you need solid, steady middle, those surefire heavy hitters, so that then you can take risks on big books because you have your steady middle, and sometimes those risks pay off and sometimes they don't. But yes, duh, publishing has been paying less and less attention to that midlist. They've been supporting them less and less. The midlist is drying up, and we do have a top-heavy publishing problem. But like I said, we knew this. I've talked about this in so many videos, all of the debut culture and the buzz culture problems, particularly in young adult fiction. We've been seeing these signs for a while that, you know, we fluff smoke up the butts of all of these shiny new authors, and then if those books don't break out big, and most of them don't, we promptly forget about them so that we can focus on the next new big hot thing. And, or simultaneously, you basically only ever hear about big-ass debuts who either make it or don't, and the already huge mega bestsellers. It's a problem with publishing and how they pick titles to put all of their weight behind and promote. It's like all they know is to throw an entire pot of spaghetti against the wall to try to break something out, and it definitely seems like they don't know anymore how to create middle of the road hits. And one of the quotes in this article that I just rolled my eyes at and side-eyed, I'm gonna find it for you. The quote was from a high-level editor at a big 5 house, and that was, "Midlist pushes buttons because no one ever publishes a book intending it to be midlist. Publishers live on the hope that the next book they publish is going to break out." I think this is both true and not true at the same time. There is always a hope that a book is going to break out. And there's another quote in the article that everyone in the midlist hopes to break out of the midlist. Both of these things are true, but I strongly disagree with this editor that they never publish a book intending it to be midlist. That is not true. There are definitely books at many publishers. Maybe that high-level editor works for one of those commercial imprints that never, ever publishes a niche or quiet or like an awards bait book. Those are actually perfect examples of books that aren't going to sell mega tons, but with a very strong marketing and publicity campaign, they can become steady, good sellers. Now then, of course, you could argue, well, but if something does become a big pick for school lists and wins awards, that does kind of make it a breakout. Yes, but it's still a relative thing. Sarah J. Maas is always going to sell tens tens, hundreds of thousands of copies more than your critical awards darling. You can't really compare the two in terms of raw sales numbers, so I guess what does top even mean? But it's really not true. I know people personally where I could tell from the way that their publishers trying to kind of develop them as a brand that they are aiming for a steady climb, and that's basically the mid-list. So I do believe that editor is wrong. You can aim to be mid-list. Do we all want to break out? Yes, but smart publishers know how to develop a mid-list. And so I think the real problem is most publishers have stopped trying to develop a mid-list because all they care to do is coast on hope and dreams of everything being a mega bestseller. And that is an incredibly short-sighted way of going about things. And I think it explains so many of the problems we are seeing in traditional publishing, especially in YA. YA in particular is a category that has subsisted for such a long time on these mega breakouts, and it's just become very poor at developing a steady mid-list. I want to bring up another quote just because it's nice and depressing, but definitely reflects what I have seen, just so that you have context. I think I brought it up in my DOA books video, as well as my sci-fi video, and also my Tiers of Marketing video when I talked about sales. And this Big 5 editor says what I have heard agents talking about and what I have seen myself. Meaning when I hear sales figures back about myself, about other people, and I ask my agent for context to contextualize, she tells me other authors tell me that 5-6 years ago, there used to be a lot more books that could sell 40,000 to 50,000 copies. Now more sell fewer than 10,000 copies. This was an editor at a Big 5, and they finished saying, it's either feast or famine. This is completely accurate. This completely reflects what I have seen. I've seen it among my friends with my debut class, where you're either in the under 10,000 club, but you're not alone because 95% of the people you know are in the other under 10,000 sales club, or you're a mega huge breakout bestseller. You easily surpass 50,000 copies, and things are great, but those numbers are surprisingly small, especially among debuts, because those numbers really go to those A-listers, the already successful authors. A statistic that was also in the article that was really interesting that, precipitated them writing this article. They got Nielsen BookScan data, which I find interesting because Nielsen BookScan captures a nice chunk of the market, but not the whole market. I have found it used to be more accurate than it is now. I don't even think it reflects 50% of sales, but still, they said that the top 100 best-selling adult titles increased 23% in 2018 compared to 2017. However, all other titles ranked below that top tier either fell or remained flat. Again, this feels very accurate. The big authors are getting bigger and everyone else is struggling, and we're all competing for attention and sales and a career. This is very depressing. Another quote that scared a lot of people. You want to be debut, literary, or best-selling. You don't want to be mid-list. One literary agent said, everyone in this article is anonymous. The mid-list is like the middle class. It's the group that gets squeezed. They don't get support from their publishers. They don't get their due as writers. They don't get the attention they deserve from reviewers. Everybody wants to break out of the mid-list. It hurts because it's true. That is one of the quotes in the article that I found the most accurate. Go figure, it's from a literary agent. I'm like, they see, they know. Still disagree with you, Big 5 editor, who says a publisher never aims to make a book mid-list. They don't. Maybe that does explain the problem. In fact, there was another Big 5 editor. What is with these Big 5 editors who said, mid-list is absolutely not a term I ever use. I know it exists and I know it is a thing, she said, before positing that publishing is essentially a business built on hope. Ugh, the fumes of hope. Hope is not a marketing strategy, but I digress. You have to imagine that this book will make its way, whether or not there's anything realistic about that. And this is just depressing. And I'm also going to link you down below to the Print Run podcast. They did an episode on this, which reminded me how much I hated this article, or how annoying I felt this article. It was like, it's a fear-mongering article. It's meant to make us all quiver. And as much as it has truths in it, it has some bullshit in it. I don't know. I guess I just don't think it's important. And the Midlist is so important. Midlist are steady, dependable sales. Why would you throw those away? And yes, you always want to hope that a book is going to break out, but you're an idiot if you think every single book is going to break out. That's just not possible, and you should be doing everything in your power to support those Midlist titles so that they aren't failures. Like, why wouldn't you do what you can to push things into the middle tier instead of the bottom? So I guess what's depressing about this article, and what did get people up in arms until, of course, they got mad about the next thing in YA on Twitter, what a week, is that this is very scary. This is very writing on the wall. But I have to tell you, this has been very obvious to me for a while. Maybe it's because I recently went through debut and like you can kind of see things from a different perspective. I did see mostly slightly older authors, not in age, but meaning people who have been in the industry a tiny bit longer, debuted longer ago, who are more comfortable from a time when the Midlist had a bit more support, and it is definitely squeezing and drying up. So it is kind of a scary time. I think as much as you, of course, want to support your biggest potential titles, the ones that are by already established best-selling authors, I think the entire publishing industry is making a huge mistake by not nurturing and cultivating a healthy Midlist. But I also think it's been going for a while, and I think we are paying the price for that. The squeeze that we're seeing right now, the diminishing returns on sales, etc., are because of what the publishing industry has done. And I think that all things go in cycles, all businesses, all things, and I think this is a growing pain that publishing has to go through. And it's good for you as the author, as the aspiring author, to know that this is happening. Is it scary? Yes. Are we the ones who suffer? Yes. Am I convincing some of you not to traditionally publish? Yes, but also self-publishing has its own set of problems. It has its own saturation problem and its own problem with there being, I don't really think self-publishing has a particularly healthy Midlist either. In self-publishing, it's pretty feast or famine as well. So really, traditional publishing is experiencing something similar to what self-publishing has experienced for a long time. You break out big or you fail big, and it's a lucky few who can land in the middle and earn steady income and build a career. And really, I hope we work on that across the board. I think that Midlists are good everywhere. It's just really hard to get there. Ultimately, it probably does speak to the difficulty of marketing. It feels more obvious to try to throw everything at the wall to break something out. Cultivating something in the middle is a lot more challenging. There's one more quote from a literary agent in here that I did quite like, which is, "This, in many ways, is the story of our business." This speaks to the challenge of breaking out authors and sustaining careers. Citing the fact that major authors of today publish at an increased velocity and frequency, he feels that this rarefied group now gets an outsized amount of the limited spoils, bigger advances, more of retailers' limited space, and more of publishers' time and attention. The more big authors a house publishes, the more they take away from all the other authors. Yeah. Oh, that's too true. So, I mean, I guess my conclusion is it's really the agents here that I feel really have their pulse on what's going on with this problem. And it's the editors where I didn't really fully agree with their quotes. And I'm kind of like, what are you doing, fam? Which is actually really interesting. And again, I do think illustrates the problem. Authors and literary agents, we see you. We know. And the publishers are sticking their head in the sand and continuing to play the game, basically. And yet, I'm a Midlist author, I think. Does the Midlist exist? Who wants to break out? It never goes away. It is true. The Midlist is very important, and it's better to land in the Midlist than to land at the bottom. But if you do land in the Midlist, we all want to break out. And so that other part of me is like, yes, publisher, please throw me at the wall. Please try to get me up there. I would love to be one of those top 100 bestsellers who makes all the money. But then the realistic side of me is like, Well, shit, it's really unfortunate that we're allowing this to happen. There really is value in the healthy middle, and we're flushing it down the toilet. So I guess my response to this article is, what else is new? Why are we shocked? Duh, but also, man, this sucks. We shouldn't have let it get to this point, but we have. What can we do about it? I don't know. I honestly hope that publishing figures it out. I think agents know what's going on. I think authors do too. And maybe we can figure something out, but I don't know. So in conclusion, is a midlist dying? Yes. Yes, it is. And I don't know what the next steps are. I don't know what the solution is, but I also still firmly believe there will always be a midlist, whether publishing likes it or not. There's always going to be books that do well, but not gangbusters. I think the thing that has shifted is how many copies those books do sell. It is now more like, oh, if we get it to 10K, we're doing really well, versus 50K being middle of the road. 50K isn't middle of the road anymore. 50K is best-selling. Like 50K is beyond best-selling, especially in a space like YA. We have to adjust what the numbers mean, and then honestly, they do need to adjust acquisition strategies and marketing strategies to learn to better support the new middle, and maybe over time, as we bounce back from this saturation point we've reached, again, speaking mostly to YA, this is the context of which I definitely read this article, though it did mention adult, that we have to then find our footing for how do we move forward? How does publishing move forward? Everything ebbs and flows and goes in cycles. And I think that finding a way to save the midlist is the way that you save publishing. Hope is not a marketing strategy, guys. Hope is not a marketing strategy. I mean, hope and strategy are literally opposite terms. Strategy indicates reason and planning, and strategy, hope is not a marketing strategy. That's where I'm gonna leave you. So I guess comment down below if I've destroyed all your dreams and like ruined everything. I don't know. If you have thoughts on this topic, and give this video a thumbs up if you want me to ramble at the camera about really depressing stuff about publishing more. I mean, there's more and more cause for it lately, but as always I say, I find it productive to educate yourself about this stuff, because if you know what to expect in the industry and you hang on, you can make it through. Things always change. This will ebb and flow. This will change. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that. I post new videos 2 to 3 times a week, all about writing and publishing, with a particular focus on young adult traditional publishing. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and happy writing.